Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Matt Watson. Hi, Matt.
Oh, man. I'm here, man. I'm here.
Your enthusiasm is noted.
I'm broke, dude.
Yeah.
I need to find some cash.
The theme of this, well, we're going to try to help.
Can I borrow the money gun? You
cannot fire the money gun unless you win mixtape. All right.
I need some money, though.
I know you do. We all do. Someone here today who is a Startup Hustle alumnus.
Oh.
And a return guest.
Does she have any money we can borrow?
We're going to find out. Let's introduce Rachael Qualls, the CEO and founder of Venture360. Welcome back.
Hi, guys. It's so good to be back. I missed you guys.
We missed you, Rachael, and we're happy that we have a much more professional setup now than the first time you came when we were like a microphone on a stand and we all sat around it.
Yeah, we didn't have a money gun before either.
We didn't have a money gun.
Or a selfie stick.
Or an awesome cameras, people that like do the work.
We are big time now.
You guys are super legit.
We didn't even have an Instagram page, which is at Startup Hustle Podcast, right? Yeah, and we didn't have the ability to cleverly drop little promo lines.
Don't tell anybody, but we're still two dudes that don't know what we're doing.
Totally.
Oh no, honey, I think they know.
Yeah, and with that, together we own a company called Full Scale. We'll help you build your software after you raise capital, which is the topic today. Oh my God, I'm hoping this isn't like a 5-hour episode. It probably could be. Well, Rachael, you know a couple things about this, and you have a product, platform, business, startup, all of that stuff that helps people with that. So, man, where do we start?
Right? Raising capital, I think, is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mean, right up next. Exactly. God, I'm going to have to be I'll be the bright, happy. Guys, it's going to be okay.
Oh, my God.
It's going to be okay because money grows on trees. All startups get funded. And quickly. It's not hard.
No, money's made out of cotton.
I am lying.
Or Bitcoin.
No, neither.
Oh.
Let's not even, God, we're really going to talk about shitty money situations. At least Bitcoin's coming back. You were here. In your first episode, we actually talked about that. You guys were two people that had rediscovered like half a Bitcoin. You're like, I'm rich.
Yeah.
And then you weren't.
I should have sold it then and ran.
Okay, back to the topic, kids. Let's line up here. This is serious stuff. So obviously with raising capital, how, where, why, and who? I mean, where do we start?
Yes.
Yes, you need it.
Well, I think it depends on if you have a brand new business and you're looking for like seed stage funding. At Full Scale, we deal a lot with companies that are going through startup accelerators, right? Yeah. So they might get 50 grand or 20 grand or 100 grand.
Correct.
So there's a lot of accelerators. That's a great way to, if you got a brand new business, you're trying to get off the ground, you need some help, need some mentors, need some cash. It's one way to raise a little bit of money.
Okay.
Right.
So, and now Rachael, your business helps people keep track of that.
Yeah, so Venture360, we have two products, one for venture capital funds. So we help them manage everyone they're taking money from, so they're investors, and then everyone they're investing into. One of our products we have for companies helps them organize the capital raising process. So something that people may not be thinking about when it comes to raising capital is that your own customers probably make the best investors for your company. And one way to kind of soft market, if you will, to customers is on your website. And so we have a link that you can put on your website behind an invest button where people can click to indicate they're interested in investing, and then you can kind of take and manage the relationship.
That's a good point. Yeah. And that's something that everyone should look at. I mean, the people that believe in your product and believe in your business it's a little easier to get them to believe in you.
Right. And when it comes to...
Should we put an invest button on the podcast?
Yes.
We could get paid.
Yes.
We could get paid. This is like the world's worst business, by the way. We generate no revenue. Well, let's talk about that because we're pre-revenue.
We're pre-revenue. Oh, but we're worth billions though.
You guys are cute.
Well, until we start making money, because as soon as we make money, then we're worth like 5 to 10 times that amount of money.
So, but that brings up.
I like your math. I like where your head's at with that.
Right, because the world is ours.
Right now, we're worth 10 times 0, which is infinity.
Damn,
Yeah.
I look so good on paper.
Yeah.
I know. And so does this podcast, along with our faces, which were clearly made for radio. So let's talk about that. That's a big part of raising capital. Is if you're going to do it, you have to have. What are you asking for? You know, like why? Like what do you need it for? What are you asking for? I think that these are common things that people don't really figure out before they go try to raise it.
Well, I think that we have to. The reason that it's so hard to raise capital is there aren't very many investors. There's so few people participating in, especially earlier stages of private equity, because, and then that begs other questions. Well, why don't we have more people investing in private equity? And it's not just a risk profile. So really smart business people know how to mitigate risk and make smart investments. It really comes down to what we believe at Venture360 is the biggest inhibiting factor, which is lack of liquidity. So if you think about our society where I can click a button and have something, any product from anywhere all over the world on my doorstep the next day, but startups want me to invest in their company at an average holding period of 10 years. So it's just not that attractive of an investment.
And most of them all fail, and they never produce any income in that 10 years.
Well, I don't know that that's true. I don't know
What
that most
businesses are you guys investing in?
99% of startups.
So I don't know that most companies fail. Maybe it's in lack of adequate capitalization at subsequent stages. Like I think there are other factors too.
Maybe I've invested in all the wrong things.
Hey,
As
now.
we stop for the selfie stick, check it out on Instagram. Man, sometimes, I'm going to take a backup because I've been saying I'm going to post all these selfie stick pictures. There we go. Smile, kids. At Startup Hustle Podcast. But yeah, sometimes they don't come out so great. Much like many people's ability to raise capital doesn't turn out that great. So, when you're going to raise money, there's a few things like why do I want to give you money? You need to answer that question on behalf of those that you're asking before you ask, right?
How much do you want? What are you going to do with it? How do I get it back?
Yep.
Right? And you need a very, very clear path to
Very
do those
visible,
three things.
very visible, very easy to, like, those are all very tangible things. Why do I, and what do I get? I tell people all the time, other than the Startup Hustle, the world's most listened to radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me?
I thought it was the Vatican City Radio. I was just in Rome, and they legit told me we're the most listened to radio station in the world.
We actually bumped the Pope to bring you in.
Well, I know.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like you should know who I think I am.
Yeah. So,
it's right up there.
But no, that what's in it for me is look, you have to speak the language of the people that you're that you have an ask from, and that's something you should define. I mean, do you agree, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what do I get out of it? You're still depressed about feeling broke, aren't you?
Yeah, man. It's the life of an entrepreneur.
Don't believe him, y'all.
But do believe it. But for real, believe it, because I'm not going to sugarcoat this shit. Getting investors is hard.
It's more than a full-time job.
Really fucking hard.
know.
There you go. You ask if we could have use adult words. Raising money is fucking hard.
It's easier to find customers.
I did.
It
I may
is.
have asked the Mats if I had to,
Yeah.
censor my language.
But
my
no,
usual
like
language.
look, the whole purpose of this podcast and this show, our mission statement is to not sugarcoat it. It's hard, people, and it sucks. It's like a full-time job. I think the second episode of this whole entire series is titled "Raising Money Sucks."
We do censor it. We don't allow talk about rainbows and clouds and unicorns. Not allowed.
Unless it's a unicorn company and you've already formed it, because I don't want to hear about it until you have.
Yeah.
But all right, so we're talking about some of the how. Now, I think we're maybe one step ahead of what most people find first, the friends and family angel. So if you're going to raise capital, I mean, you got to look. You talked about with your customers, with your clients, people like that. But probably the most common form of funding for anybody is just.
Do you remember what that stat is? It's a staggering percentage.
It's huge.
Of the percentage of all money raised comes from friends and family.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a rich Uncle Tom, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's really tough.
At the same time, I also want to caution you to be careful, because your dream is not necessarily someone else's.
Yeah.
And if you're not positive it's going to go,
you gotta be careful with their money.
You can really kind of mess up. I'm not a big friend. I'm not a big family. I don't ask my family for stuff. I ask my friends for stuff, maybe, but I don't really have any friends either.
One of the biggest problems I see with software companies is you have somebody who has an idea, like the Winklevosses, but they don't have the technical talent to build the software. So they got to go find the Zuckerberg, right? And they can either go find the Zuckerberg, or they've got to find somebody who can build the software for them, which could be Full Scale, or it could be somebody else, right? And potentially what happens is they end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on contractors and consultants and all this stuff to build software. So they have to go raise all this money. Where a lot of times they're a lot better off if they go find a co-founder.
Yeah.
Who can go find the Zuckerberg, go find that guy.
I guess resources are capital in that regard. You're just talking about finding someone else.
But you're better off to give up a little equity in the company instead of taking your Uncle Tom's money to go hire some consultant that you're going to give.
So that's a question I get a lot is how much?
So
yeah.
I don't think you should ever give equity away. I think equity should always be earned.
Sure,
right,
yeah.
So key that, like, let's highlight that again. Equity should be earned. And I give that advice. I'm like, don't ever just give someone a third of your company. You want to vest that in or do something.
So Rachel, do you have experience with that? Do you have co-founders on your team that you've given equity for?
And everybody earned it.
And they earned it.
They did. So there's one thing to say when they start, look, you're going to get, let's say it's a co-founder and they get a substantial portion, 20, even 30% of your company. You can give it to them up front on the premise that everything's going to work out. And then you build in ways, say, look, if you don't get this done, if you don't get that done.
Make them vest it.
Yeah, it's vested over time. So they take ownership of the dream of owning 30% of this as we all, talk about how we're going to exit and be unicorns. But
billionaires.
You take that away as performance doesn't.
Yeah.
Quite. So
I want to be 1,000 there.
You got it, buddy. You did it. Here, let me give you 1,000 Supreme.
Oh, yes.
Money gun. Congratulations. Dude. You're funded. Here, I don't even know how much that is, but it's all
I got a couple. Yeah.
So, so how? You have the people that are in your own circle. Those are typically angels, but an angel investor can be defined as other individuals that might write a check, then not necessarily just friends and family.
I think a lot of people struggle with access to that.
Yeah.
It's
tough.
None of us wonder who, even in our Kansas City, has money, right?
Yeah.
Like we know. It's how do you get access to, and then how do you convince them to part with it?
Well, that's hard. That's hard.
That's
that's one of the things too. And that's, back to being well defined about what you need, what you want. Okay, so you need to create a proper pitch deck that outlines the problem, your solution, what you need, what you're going to do with it, what are some of the time frames.
And capital raising, even to this day, and at some point I would like us to talk about how we would change this if we could wave a magic wand. But today it's still a very local up approach, right? So it's going to start with who do you know locally? And it starts with, like here in Kansas City, we have resource groups like Casey Source Link and Digital Sandbox and Launch. Start there.
And let's stop for a second. So like Digital Sandbox, which is here in Kansas City, which is the home of Full Scale, your company, Rachel, Venture360, the Startup Hustle podcast, and a whole lot of other stuff. But Digital Sandbox is I guess we'd call them an accelerator. So they give $20,000 grants to businesses that have, basically given their pitch. Now that money is provided by the government. Mm-hmm. It's grants that comes in, so they are in charge of.
And 20 grand doesn't seem like a lot of money, but if you're using a company like Full Scale, I mean that could be 4, 5, 6 months worth of work. Like you can get a MVP done or whatever. You can get a long ways.
Yeah, and so I'll give you an example. We and I don't want to say we officially partnered with, but like for Digital Sandbox winners, they get a $20,000 grant. Full Scale, we give them another $5,000.
Yeah,
just for free.
It gets them a long way.
And bring it along.
Build an MVP.
Yeah, and that's important. And by the way, by the time this comes out, we will also be announced as having partnered with another local accelerator, which due to contractual obligations, I'm not going to mention just in case something falls apart. Yeah, well, I got to give you a reason to listen. But but any of these companies or organizations, they're going to just kick you right back out the door if you show up. I mean, if you're showing up to a black tie event, you need to wear a tux. You need to look the part. You don't show up in shorts and no shirt and flip-flops.
That's how I do it.
Well, I know. That's also why you didn't win it. You only win every other award, Matt. By the way, Rachel, is there an award that Matt doesn't win?
I don't know. It's been a minute since he hasn't won one.
Yeah, I know. We're going to have the Matt Watson Award special where I'm just going to...
It's Master Watson.
I know. I'm just going to read them really fast, and it'll still take half an hour. But that kind of plays in. So I'll give you an example. It's easier for Matt to get someone's attention that's an investor than it is for someone that hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah.
Let's just be realistic. I mean, it is. And so that's the thing.
I mean, yes and no. They also want to. They always ask me, why do you need capital?
Yeah, no, I get it.
What do you say?
Because I'm the brokest rich guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean that's a real world thing though. Like once you have people think you have money, they don't understand why you're trying to raise it.
Because now you come with a perception, right? You're walking into the room with a preconceived notion.
Yeah.
And then there's a perception of me. No one thinks I have any money. They just think I know you. No, but I'm write a book called $1 Million Bedroom and see how that goes over with people. That's like, oh, dude. But so with that, why am I going to pay attention to you? And I really recommend that people take time with your presentation if you're going to raise capital, because it's representing who you are, what you want to do. And if it looks like shit, like, why am I even going to pay attention? Like, if you can't even make an effective presentation that's only like 8 slides, maybe as many as 20, I'm not going to pay attention. Are you?
No, I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, if you're one of the few investors at the table, you're getting tremendous amounts of deal flow. So you need to understand as an entrepreneur what your competitive landscape looks like. It's your first competitive environment, regardless of whether or not you've launched a product, or this is your first chance to compete. Yeah. And so you need to be strategic and smart.
Well, I mean, that's the thing investors, or not investors, but founders need to remember. You're competing against every other company there is that's trying to raise capital.
Right.
So it's like you got to be the best there is, because it's a competition.
And if you're talking to firms and funds, like, keep in mind, these are sophisticated people that are in the business of, well, at least they're supposed to be picking winners. They're going to, it's their job to look at 99 pitches and wait for the one that's like right down the middle, like,
I talked to one
waiting
today.
For a home run.
I talked to one today, and they're like, well, we look at a lot of companies, and the ones we see are doing better at this or doing better at that, and they want a lower valuation, and we talk to them all day long. So maybe we should invest in somebody else if you don't meet these same metrics and you're not as good a quality of an investment. Like,
I want to talk about valuations, because I think that this is a hot topic when it comes to raising capital. Like, how do you set one?
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Your company is worth what someone's willing to pay for it at the
end
of the day.
You sound like my dad growing up. I would have a baseball card and I'd be like, this is worth $20. He's like, you got someone to give you $20 for it? No. Okay, well, that's not worth shit.
Yeah. I got a Beanie Baby to sell you for $100 if you want it.
Well, it depends which one it is. Aren't some of those kind of valuable?
But it's really hard. I think a lot of it is the market opportunity, right? Like, say StackFi is an example. We're in a very defined market. We have competitors that do hundreds of millions of dollars a year in revenue.
And you also have revenue.
And we have revenue, right? So it's easy to look at us and say, okay, what's the opportunity? What's the market potential? Whatever. But a lot of these startups are like doing whatever thing, and it's kind of undefined market, have no idea what the potential is. Of course, they think they're going to boil the ocean. But it's like really difficult to even know what's the potential of this thing.
What do you think,
makes
RQ?
It hard.
What do I think?
Yeah, what do you think are the most important factors in valuation? I mean, just like some of the things that, if we're giving advice about raising capital, or at least like trying to tell people about our stories. Once again, raising capital sucks. It's hard. It's like dating, in a way. But
it's a numbers game.
It's like dating, but I'm not super hot, but I'm not ugly.
True.
So I'm trying to like find ways to stand out.
You're trying to win on personality.
Yeah, there are people like, my friend Matt, he's got a great personality.
I do.
Yeah. Oh, we're talking about you?
So how do you set value? So the good news is that VCs don't really know either, and everybody's working a recipe. So when
they're working a spreadsheet, from my knowledge.
So when it comes to venture
you fit their
capital,
spreadsheet or you don't.
It's not always
much like dating.
It's not always a guess. I think, first of all, go to data aggregation sites like Crunchbase and PitchBook and learn what companies about your size are getting funded for, because that's what the investors are seeing.
And maybe even look for the people that did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you can back into who your market's going to be and at what valuations they typically invest. I would never start an investor conversation. I wouldn't even have it in my pitch deck what your valuation is. That can come after they're interested in you. It's like proposing marriage on the first date. Talking terms when you first start talking to an investor is just premature.
You're not supposed to propose on the first date?
Not typically, but that might be wildly romantic. So you do you. I don't know.
Just living my best life.
But anyway, so that would be my advice, is that there are stages to the pitching relationship, and it doesn't start with terms and valuation. If you find a good investor they'll work with you on that. They're like, hey, you're coming in at a pre-money of 10. We really think you're a pre-money of 8. And then you can decide, is that a material amount of difference or, But if they're telling you valuation is really the deal breaker, there's something else and they just don't want to tell you what that is.
So back to that shocking reality. If you're pre-revenue, you haven't had successful businesses or ventures in the past, you're probably not getting money from a VC.
It's really difficult to raise money with no revenue.
You're going to hear things. This is what you're going to hear, and hopefully this makes some of you feel better that you're not alone. Call us back when you have some traction. We're maybe a little too early for us to get involved. Just things, and some of those are polite ways of telling you to suck it. But
and from my experience at Stackify, I get emails every week from these VCs, and at least from them, like almost all of them also want you to have $5 million a year in revenue.
Yeah.
Let alone any revenue.
It's
$5 million a year.
Chicken and the egg all day, man. And I hate both of them.
And part of the problem with these VCs is they go raise like a $500 million fund.
Yeah.
And they're not going to write checks for $100,000. They want to write checks for $10 million.
Well, let's define why though, because we've talked about that recently. Is it's about portfolio management. These big companies are trying to do big things. They don't want to end up owning 400 different companies that they have 4% in.
But they should. That's where that's what's wrong. One of my favorite things right now in the venture industry, and we're starting our own podcast too, by the way.
I can't wait to listen to it.
Don't tell anyone.
Can we be guests? Do we get to be on it?
We're only interviewing VCs because it'll give you insight into how they're thinking and structuring.
Full Scale invests in other businesses. We've invested in actually multiple businesses.
Yeah, I mean, you might know somebody who could make that happen for you. But anyway. But let's talk about some trends in the venture industry.
Can you ask all of them for money from Matt and I, just by default? That would be really helpful.
One of them is Quant Funds. So funds that invest strictly based on data and metrics. A lot of VCs and a lot of us are bringing personal bias to any decision we make in life, and investments are no different. So if you can find quant funds, like one of my favorites right now are Kinetic Ventures.
So that
you have a real
quant
opportunity.
fund's going to look at purely metrics, like your revenue, your growth, your percent. They're going to dissect a lot of that.
They're going to look at you. So even if you've never done it before,
how do you quantify a person though?
They do. So they have. I know, right? You should have seen like the personality.
They track your heart rate.
Craziness they took me through, but. Anyway, I think that it's changing.
Okay, but let's talk about that for a second. They talk about your personality because certain personality styles are driven people.
Right.
They're looking for that. I know that because I'm a highly driven person. I'm aware that that's a desirable quality. Why? Because you don't quit as easily.
Right. You're going to figure it out.
Yes.
So even if you've never done it before,
you'll die trying.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to be said for betting on the jockey and not the horse. I mean, we bet on the jockey, but we buy the horse. So that's a discussion for another time. But you need to find some funds that are maybe thinking about things a little bit differently. But like you talked about, Matt, you raise a $500 million fund, logistically going out and funding 400 companies doesn't probably, because the reason you're going to raise a bigger fund is VCs get paid what are called management fees. And so the larger the fund they raise, the more they get paid.
Yep.
So that's their motivation.
And this is the problem you see with every VC. They start out, they raise like a $10 million fund, they invest in these little startups, and then they raise a bigger fund and a bigger fund and a bigger fund. And next thing you know, they're a PE group. They're not even a VC anymore or whatever, right? Like, that's the struggle that you see.
Their struggle is the same as our struggle. So VCs have to go out and raise money just like we as entrepreneurs have to raise money from them. So they start out with their Series A and they graduate just like we do. So, and they have to prove history and they have to prove performance. And so VCs understand what it's like to raise capital because in some ways they made that easier for us as entrepreneurs because they aggregated a bunch of individuals into a fund.
So I think we should move to the discussion of when. Like when
do you raise capital? Before you need it. Right now. Everyone should be raising capital.
Amen.
And well, right. And that's something that, I've put myself in this position before and I see so many people do it. They wait.
I did it too.
It is not
I waited
fast.
way too long because I thought we could just get this much further and then it'd be easier. It's never easier. Just start doing it.
So we talk about valuation. You talk about what you're asking for. People are like, well, I think I just want to do like a little bit. I'm like, no, ask for a shitload. Why? Because you don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. You don't know what the future holds for you. You are better to be sitting on a war chest, and you're going to make errors. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make
have a bad quarter.
Yeah,
you're going to have a bad quarter.
Stuff like that, and be prepared for it.
Yeah, not a bad month.
And if you try to go raise capital the month after the bad quarter,
done.
You're fucked.
done. Because the Quant Funds, they're going to dissect you.
That's true.
Kind of true, man. That sounded like evil. My eyes are like, ah. But, you know, this is all important stuff, though, because, all right, so when you talk about when, obviously, if you don't have the resources to get something started, like, that's a time when people are raising capital. Another time, too, is like, you know, pick the moments. Like, okay, we've been hot for a year. It might be a good time to raise capital. Like Matt said, you know, don't wait until after things have been flat. That's not attractive. You just have to look at your situation, and also, like, when does it feel right for you? Like, you know, some people would say, oh, I don't want to sell to VCs. I'm like, why not? These are people that are, like, very well attuned with making you successful. They obviously have a huge vested interest in your growth and possibly your exit and helping you get there.
Our market are venture capital firms, and so I talk to VCs all day, every day.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
There was a universal truth there.
There's some of the most fantastic people I've ever met.
That was eerie.
Oh my God.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun. But
and if
you're just
VC
saying that
I'm
because
just,
they're your customer.
Well, yeah, but no, they really are. These are fantastic people. I think
well, they
get a
are.
bad rap.
They're interesting. You know, VCs. Well, they're okay. So a lot of you that are going to go through this process, you're going to get frustrated by them. I mean, I'm just being honest.
Well, yeah, because they have to say no 99%
they have to,
of the time.
because there's they run into a zillion opportunities to do business with a zillion people, and everyone's sitting there across the table from them talking about how they're the next billion-dollar company. All you have to do is sign on. And, you know, so when you're dealing with these folks in the process, listen to their feedback. I mean, it's valid. Mm-hmm. They're going to tell you, say, hey, this is a crowded marketplace. You have a lot of people to compete with.
Right.
Or, I don't know, man, there's just a zillion different things that can come up. So when the win, I think, is, you know, when you see an opportunity to significantly move your business forward and, like, a long way in a short amount of time, it's the right time to have capital on hand, like,
or spend more money making the same mistakes you would have otherwise. Whatever.
That's what you're trying to avoid, right?
Well, and that's part of the problem with raising capital. Sometimes you need it to get you through the new stages. You're like, oh, we need to expand sales and marketing. We don't really know how, but we need to raise capital so we can figure it out.
There you go.
But sometimes that is a very appropriate response.
Yeah.
It seems weird at first. Why do I need money? I need money to prove whether or not this is going to happen. Now, that's a risky thing for an investor, but in some situations, it really makes a lot of sense. But it's weird because, you know, I've talked to people that are VCs, and you say, what's a weird situation you've run into? Like, you know, get a guy sitting here telling me he needs $4 million to figure out whether this AI algorithm is going to ever be able to be something valid. But if it is, it's going to be freaking huge. If it's not, we're out $4 million. You know, I mean, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. So anyway, the when, always. Mm-hmm. And okay, so, and Rachel, maybe you can give me some insight, but I mean, you're looking at a 6 to 9 month process. Is that fair?
Oh gosh, yes. Even before, because you have to get.
That means from, like, the first contact. Like, hey, we're going to raise capital. Okay, if you get it within 6 months, you've done well. And some of it, like if it's an angel, those people can write checks faster.
They can, yeah.
Institutional funds are not.
Like there's a certain VC I've talked to off and on for a while, and they keep talking to me because they always tell me, like, oh, well, we talk to your customers all the time and they love your product. So we hear all these great things about your product all the time. So it's like just them getting to learn about us, and it's sort of like dating, you know?
Yeah.
You don't propose on the first call.
So I have a funding opportunity for both of you.
Okay.
I've got 1,000 Supreme dollars out of the money gun and an opportunity for the winner of this round of Mixtape to fire the money gun.
Oh.
Mixtapethegame.com. I'm going to read a scenario. We're all going to mention a song. We get to vote for each other. You cannot vote for yourself. It is unlikely that Watson will actually vote for me. Let's just get that out of the way.
Okay, I like my odds.
I know, your odds are good. You notice I'm already preparing the camera for the video of you firing the money gun. Yeah, and that's a real thing, people. Okay, the best song for riding a beach cruiser down Venice Beach Boardwalk.
What's the Will Smith song, Welcome to Miami? Is it Welcome to Miami?
Except for Venice Beach is in California, but that's fine.
That's beside the point. I mean, relevant, but totally beside the point. Or Katy Perry's California
I want
Girls.
something about rolling down the street.
How about
sipping on
limp? How
gin.
about
I'm going with gin and juice.
or
I'm going with gin and juice.
Limp
Yeah.
Biscuits rolling?
Oh yeah, I was looking for that one too. All right,
Yeah.
I'm still sticking with gin and juice.
All right.
Rolling down the street.
And what are you going with?
I'm gonna go with the Katy Perry.
Katy
California
Perry,
Girls.
California Girls.
What'd you pick?
Limp Biscuit rolling.
And you had Katy Perry.
Yeah.
I'm Rachel. I hate to do
I
this
know,
for you,
it's
but I'm
okay,
gonna
it's
vote
fine.
for Watson.
Oh.
Now you've got the deciding vote, maybe. Or who are you voting for?
Oh no, I'm going gin and juice. Yeah.
You
I
are.
think I'm
All
gonna
day.
go gin and juice.
Woo!
Yeah.
It's
That's
fine.
right.
I
You
threw the
heard-
Katy Perry.
You
Does that mean you're a
Fine.
winner?
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot the money gun. You gotta turn it. You
What?
gotta turn it on though. The video meaning. All right, here we go. You guys are about to get funded right here on
Yes!
Startup Hustle. Here you
we
go.
We just got
There's
funded.
too much money in the money gun. There it is.
Should have been taken.
Funded.
Appropriately, it didn't work the first
Funded.
try.
Congratulations. That's about wow. Man, I really funded everywhere, including this $2 bill. Okay. I feel like a big winner.
Wow.
That was the second most funding I've ever achieved.
I think you got $30,
So, is that how
including
much
the
is in
random
there?
$2 bill.
I
That's a
feel like
good
I'm
point.
winning at
Yeah.
$30.
So anyway,
Winning.
what we just demonstrated there is not what's going to happen at your VC meeting. They
But
do
it
not.
could.
It could possibly.
Especially the first time you pulled the trigger, it didn't work.
You know the sad thing about winning
very
and firing
appropriate.
the money gun here on Startup Hustle is like you got to give the money back so
Yeah.
we can use it again. But anyway, that was fun. We'll definitely post that video on Instagram. Okay, so.
So how do we tell people they can do it? Because you guys are a bit doom and gloom. So
Well,
how-
okay, so but
we all did it. We all
I
started
don't want to be. I
somewhere,
just want to
right?
set people up for realistic expectations. So
Can I ask this first? Is the suggestion really not to do it?
no.
Should we talk about that?
Well, I
Like
mean,
not doing it.
But what if no
but
one could have told me
you
not to do it?
kinda
I was going
have
to do
to
it.
on some in some
anyway.
cases.
You don't have to raise capital.
Oh, you mean? I thought you meant just starting.
You don't have to
businesses in
raise.
general.
Well,
Are we
there's
talking
that.
people out of?
But I mean, you don't
being
have
an
to raise
entrepreneur?
capital.
But
No.
the why? Okay.
Sometimes you really do. How are
we
you gonna
didn't answer
start
the
most
why
of them?
though. We didn't answer the why. Why do you do it? Because you want to fund your business to grow bigger, faster, and stronger. You want to.
Yeah.
You
At-
want to.
At Vin Solutions, we never raised a single dollar, and we sold it for 150 million.
How did you
bucks.
get the money to start?
I fucking wrote the code,
You just
and my
did.
business partner went and sold some shit.
But
Yeah.
how? So you
Let's go.
You pre-sold.
He told me what we needed to do. I wrote the code, and he went and sold it. We had customers. Let's go.
But how long
Giddy
did
up.
it take you to write that?
I don't know.
So let's say it took you
Math.
6
months.
months.
6 to 8
6
minutes.
months?
Oh.
How did you pay yourself in that 6 months?
I had another job.
Okay, so
Matt worked
you
at Sears.
self-funded,
Did you still work at Sears?
No, I was
That's
working at
a-
a medical laboratory
Oh.
then.
and then
writing
you
software.
pre-sold. So he went out and sold kind of your MVP, which gave you enough
Yeah.
revenue to eventually quit your job. Which,
Yeah, like 2 years later.
okay,
Still unlikely.
But we never raised any money.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing. I mean, you can obviously bootstrap it. I mean, the $1 million bedroom story, I had a computer, a credit card with an $8,000 limit, and an extra bedroom.
do you feel like you would have been more successful or had a different success outcome had you raised capital?
You know, I think there's a double-edged sword to it because when you don't have any money and your back is against the wall at all times, it makes you have more tenacity and urgency to get shit done.
I agree with
Because
that.
you're like,
Yeah.
payroll is in 3 days. We need to go sell some shit if we're going to make payroll.
Yeah.
Where if you've got a bunch of money in the bank that some VC gave you, you're like, whatever.
Matt,
don't need any money.
That's a good point, though. I mean,
We're good.
There's some,
And we're going to get another round of funding in 12 months. We'll be fine.
Because fat dogs don't hunt. I mean, it's simple. I've really brought the Kansas out in me there.
The fat
The
dog.
fat dog don't hunt, but it's true. I mean, there's something about like that need to be. That's where driven people come in, though, because you got to be scrappy. I mean, that's a scrappy ass approach to doing it. It's what a lot of people do, but. You know, I mean, I think the why is if you want to grow fast, some people want to get it started. Some people honestly just don't know how to do it.
I mean, some companies have to be venture backed, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, if you're trying to
it's
be
just-
huge, I mean,
it's-
you're not going to bootstrap it out of the extra bedroom in your house.
But do you compete with companies who are, like in our industry right now, our competitors are wildly well capitalized, but we're still going to beat them because we can. But they're spending lots and lots of money to do the same things that we're doing for
Yeah.
cheaper. So can you compete when all of a sudden the business landscape is that everyone else is raising?
That's something you're going to run into in
Crazy
those
amounts of
meetings. Is
money?
they're going to say, I went through this with Gigabook. They're like, so you're competing with, who knows XYZ, and they just got $10 gajillion. Right. How are you going to defeat this 800-pound gorilla?
I think it also depends if you're in a market where it's a winner-take-all market. Like, there's only going to be like Uber and Lyft. There's not going to be 20 different solutions for this, right? Like, there are certain things where there's 1, 2, 3 people that kind of dominate the market, and there is nothing left for anybody else.
So, but you bring up something that we should hit on as well, though. When Laurel Holt was here, dude, literally changed my life. So sometimes you just take the cowardly approach. Maybe your plan should involve going and doing something no one else is doing, where everyone will leave you alone to get really good at it.
I've got a friend here in town who's built
riches in the niches. He's
built a great business. It's kind of sort of like custom enterprise software that I think he does like $10 million a year, 100% bootstrapped. Sure, he has lots of competitors, but it doesn't matter. He's in a giant enterprise software space. He could have a fraction of 1,000% of the market and still not be worried about his competition. Mm-hmm. And he can grow as slow or as fast as he wants and just keep plotting along. Doesn't matter. He's not up against like Uber, and it's like, I'm gonna die if Uber wins, and I have to somehow outraise Uber, or I'm dead.
Well, that's
like that's a whole different game.
But that's the game they played. I mean, do you think there's a competitive advantage to someone entering the market to compete with an Uber and Lyft? Like
at this point, no. They're crazy. Unless it's Tesla or somebody, right? Like somebody else. I mean, sometimes
that could be, and that's actually
so the hardware play.
But they would be more disruptive, right? They're like, we're doing driverless cars, so it's a tenth of the price, so it's extremely disruptive. Like, it's got to be an evolutionary step forward somehow.
I've been driving your Tesla when you don't know it, which is kind of driverless in a way.
Good.
It's a lot more affordable.
I'm going to send it to come pick you up.
But, Matt has a good point.
And I think these types of businesses we're describing are the perfect kind of companies that live and thrive in the Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. We're going to be first to market. We're going to own a market. We don't care if we invest $50 million, $100 million, whatever it is. We're going to go own this market, and we will spend money like crazy to do it, which is not a Midwestern attitude.
Well,
right?
And it's self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because if you can throw enough money at your success,
you become the market leader.
Some of the venture funds that are dumping huge amounts of money into that, they just know that. They're like, we can just put $800 million into this, and it's eventually going to get big enough that
it should eventually succeed.
Yeah, it will eventually be worth something.
And when you're dealing with a lot of the VCs in Silicon Valley, I think they have that mindset, right? They're looking for the next unicorn. They're looking, if you can't show them you're going to do like $100 million a year in revenue, forget it.
Well, and you have to understand too that the VCs in the Valley, what they do very, very well is marketing. So they have their own marketing budgets to promote their own portfolio companies because that is their ability to raise their next fund. Have you heard of what's in their portfolio? If you haven't, they're probably not going to raise another fund.
Yeah.
So they're not only investing lots of money into the companies, but they're investing a lot of their own money into marketing those companies.
But I think the point is, you're so much better off if you have one of those companies that you're not such a boom or bust where you have to be the top 3 in a space. Like,
I agree.
Stackify has lots of competitors, and we will be very successful in our own little niche in our own little world. And sure, we have competitors, but whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
We're still going to be here.
Same. I mean, we all have to carve out our niche of the world, right? And but back to your point of, does everyone need to raise capital? No, but every business takes capital to, be successful. Yeah. So is it a raising? Is it a making? Is it a, if you can't, I far prefer to make money than I do to raise money. That should be the end game, is making money.
Do you know what I just raised? Your follower count on Instagram.
I feel like you should know.
The Venture360.
I'm an influencer at I have at least 100 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
I know. No,
that might actually, because during this episode I turned myself into a quant, I'm going to say you're inaccurate. But I'd like it if some of our listeners would go to the Venture360 on Instagram and boost that count.
Well, that would be awesome.
Is it really the Venture360?
It is.
Okay.
It is. Like that, because it is the.
It is.
Okay. So I think the why is variable. Like we just talked about why.
Why do you raise money?
Yeah, it's variable. I think it depends on your situation and your goals. And I'm okay with leaving it that. So, we talked a little bit about who. So you have people you have funds, there's a lot of things. By the way, dig deep. There's state money. There's things that will give tax credits. like in Kansas, they have the Kansas Angel Tax Credit.
Missouri
has MTC.
Yep, we are MTC backed.
There you go. And so, let's talk about that. You can talk about that, right?
Sure.
So that's a public thing. It's by the Department of Economic Development, and they will take an equity position in a company that is equal to whatever matches any investor, right?
That's right.
And there you go. And the money is there. They're trying to support their local ecosystem.
It is a huge deal, and I hope the state and those in power realize and understand what a big deal that is.
So there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of innovation funds that are springing up just around, and that's what you got to look for.
It's not the early stuff that's actually the hardest. We talked about how do you get started and how do you, we, even in Kansas City, have tremendous amounts of resources of sort of your getting started, whether it's, digital sandbox, launch KC, MTC, all of these things. It's the next rung up, which is where a company like mine is, where you're going out for, later stage venture capital, B and C rounds. And in the Midwest, it's almost non-existent. And if it's here, they want, massive amounts of revenue. And so it's just a different game that I'm playing now. It's much, much, much harder.
Yeah.
There are more funds and more money. It's just a little bit harder.
So so we don't forget about it, I want to, at Venture360, your product helps people keep track of all of the stuff.
Yeah, and it helps you market the fact you're raising money in an SEC compliant way. So we're also as entrepreneurs handcuffed because the SEC says you can't market the fact you're raising money. And that's a whole other thing that we can deal with.
We're not tax advisors or broker dealers of investment services, but you also have to give some mindfulness to that, because you can't just go out and just solicit investment.
That's right.
For percentages in your company, and that's what Rachel's company. That's what Venture360.com can help you with. And you guys have a new product coming out called LIQUIFI.
So excited! I'm like a little kid with a new toy.
I know. Is it a money gun?
It's a money gun.
But so tell us about that and how that's going to help our listeners.
Well, Venture360 always started, we wanted to build a stock exchange for private companies to trade their stock. We feel like if you can offer liquidity to investors, more investors are going to come to the table. It'll be easier to raise capital.
That needs to be solved.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is our end game. Venture360's current product helps us aggregate investors and companies onto one platform. And so then we turn that into what's now called LIQUIFI, which is where you're going to go to liquidate those transactions. So
and
LIQUIFI.
That's LIQUIFI.
That's right. Someone called it LIQUIFI the other day. And I was like, oh, no, that's not okay.
I get used to that.
It's LIQUIFI. Yeah. And anyway, you can build your own private stock exchange. So here soon, companies all over the world, we're going to launch our own stock exchanges where people can trade our stock.
Boom.
It's going to be awesome.
There's other things too, like for example, and why did we never do an episode about this? Full scale, like we've invested in software platforms. Like there's other ways to go out, non-conventional ways to go and look for the funds that you need, like we did with Mixtape, and we have a lot of fun. If we never sell another box of Mixtape, that investment paid for itself just for the joy that it has brought us.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Okay, so, we talked about how, where, why, who. What are we leaving out? Obviously, you could say what, but I mean...
I don't know. We could talk a little bit about structuring, but that gets a little bit boring.
Yeah,
really, it's about how do you get to the point someone's willing to give you money, and let your attorneys work it out.
I think there's a couple other things.
Yeah, let's go through. Let's actually do this. Let's each of us give a couple do's and don'ts about raising, and because we're running out of time, we could talk about this for like 5 years. But
we're running out of time and money both.
I know, because time is money, and but so who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
No, wait, I'll go first. I want Mixtape, dude. You get to go second.
All right.
Is that fair? Ladies first, actually. Rachel, you can go first. I defer.
Well, I was going to...
And I hope my wife's listening, because it finally happened.
Ladies first.
I was polite.
You heard it here first, folks. That time DeCourcy was polite.
On the 43rd minute. There you go.
Look, you need to treat capital raising like sales. You need to talk to as many people as you possibly can. You need to put them into some sort of follow-up retargeting campaign. You're probably not going to turn a no into a yes, so you need to take those and you need to move on. So that's my advice, is you need to treat it like sales. You need to apply some strategy to it, and you need to be ready to compete.
What should you not do?
come back to me on that one. I'm going to think about, because there's a lot right now. I'm going to have to pick one. So come back to me on that one.
And that's how many things you can do wrong.
I've probably seen thousands of pitches at this point.
So Matt, you're last, so I'm going to go next.
Fine.
What?
I'll save the best for last.
I think that's whatever makes you happy, buddy. I think the thing that's important is that I say this with so many different things, that you got to look like you're in the business of doing whatever you say you do. Nothing drives me crazier than someone that hands me a business plan about their .com technology company they want to start, and it's got like, email me at yahoo.com. And there's just like little basic things that will kind of make you, honestly, look dumb, inexperienced, and like a noob. Like, keep your presentations and your plans, everything, keep them simple but still informative enough. Like, don't have a presentation that's got just paragraphs everywhere on it. A couple bullet points and get to the point. You're dealing with type A people, and get right to the point. So so that's kind of a do and a don't. I think another don't, by the way, Rich, I want to say that I think your point about treating it like sales is key. You're not going to just send off a pitch deck and wait for everyone to come chase you down.
Right.
Show your tenacity. Show up with energy. Like, we were at the CEO retreat and there was a VC panel, and they said, walk in and sell us on your big dream. Show your energy, and be yourself. They're going to get to the bottom of it. They're going to dissect before someone gives you a check for $5 million, they're going to dissect everything you do. So don't try to hide it. You might as well just get it on out there. This is what we do well. This is what we don't do well. These are our strengths. These are our weaknesses. This is what I need help with. Mm-hmm. They're going to figure it out.
Well, so my big advice is raising money is very much a networking thing. It's talking to many people as you can, asking them who do they know, asking people that may not be an investor, just like who do you know, getting into the circles of people. It's there's only 2 or 3 degrees of separation to meet every single potential investor there is in Kansas City. They all know each other. They're all the rich dudes.
Let's throw that
girls,
in. Don't be afraid to ask
family
someone
offices.
for help.
Huh?
Well, rich girls.
Yeah, but,
it's
but don't be afraid to ask people for
dudes.
help. Like, say, who should I talk to?
Yeah.
Do you know anyone that you recommend that I talk to?
It's very much a networking game. The other thing that I think is important is once you have some investors, it becomes easier and easier later when you need to raise money, because then you have all these people that have a vested interest in you raising the next round.
Right.
And having kind of a capital partner to work with you is really big.
So I guess that goes into part of my don't is that once you cash the check, you're not done raising capital. So I think that being a good steward of people's money.
You become more marketable at that point. Yeah.
Two, you have a fiduciary responsibility to be reporting back to those investors, because they actually determine what your ability to raise that subsequent round. And,
So Rachel, because he needs it, would you like to fund Watson with the money gun?
Watson, I would totally fund you.
Oh, please.
Wait.
Oh, no. We need a better
No
money
funding
gun.
on the first try.
There you go.
Nope.
So what do? You
Nope.
try again.
No funding on the first
again.
try. You reload and you ask again. Please fund me.
There's only
Unbelievable. There's so much money in the gun, it's not even firing out. There you go. Oh, my God. This is terrible. There we go. All right. Dude, you're supposed to keep the money, not throw it everywhere. Anyway.
It came too slowly.
I think the real important thing to remember is don't buy the counterfeit Supreme Money Gun. See you guys next time.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.